And it's always an honor to rise here and speak on behalf of the District of Harbour Grace Portagrave, of course, but I'd like to kick off and congratulate Newfoundland Labrador's very own Alex Newhook. What a hero he is, of course. And what an exciting game that was, of course, last night. So he's doing so well, and we're very proud of him. So we wish him, continued success. I'm sure many will be watching Thursday night when they take to the ice again to play Carolina. And let's go all the way to the Stanley Cup and have the Habs bring the cup home here to Newfoundland Labrador this year. That'd be great. And it'd be a second time for Alex, as he's already brought the cup here. And we know, of course, the first Newfoundlander and Labradorian to bring the cup to Newfoundland was none other than Riverhead Harbour Grace native Danny Cleary. Of course, so congratulations. Also a big heartfelt congratulations to Dawson Mercer, who was technically a former constituent of mine, of course, growing up in Bay Roberts, but left at a very young age to pursue his hockey talents. And he's doing extremely well in the NHL, as well as, of course, with Team Canada currently in Switzerland. So all the very best. We've got a lot of great talent here, especially when it comes to hockey, in both female and male hockey here in Newfoundland and Labrador. So hats off to them. Certainly a great game, and we'll all be watching again. So congratulations to them. And speaking here now on budget, we got about 20 minutes, and I'd like to congratulate my colleagues for standing up. My two colleagues just stood up for the past hour and gave great dialogue. And they're speaking on behalf of their constituents, so I commend them for doing that, certainly. I'll get to some stuff as well in the budget, but first of all, I will like to put on the record the feedback that I'm receiving for the significant cuts of $66 million in the roads budget is not going over very well in my district chair, even though I have been fortunate enough to secure and to advocate and to help secure significant resources for road works and repair in my district for Harbour Grace Portagrave. But that's what we're all here to do, to advocate on behalf of our constituents, our organizations, and our municipalities. But there's still some work left to do, in particular on the South Side Road in Harbour Grace, as well as Bishop's Cove Road. But that said, an update for residents in Bishop's Cove is that we're actually currently replacing the guide rail. And anybody who's taken a drive along that scenic road in Bishop's Cove knows it's a significant drop to the ocean. So if something were to happen, anybody goes over that cliff, it's not going to be a good outcome. So that said, that work is currently happening and ongoing. So just a respectful reminder to motorists and pedestrians who will be traveling. But that said, I will be continuing to advocate. Also, I've reached out to my colleague, who is now the current Minister of Environment, with regards to some permits that need to be approved and pushed along for significant work that needs to happen on Southside Road. We secured significant funding from both the federal government and the province, as well as the municipality. Over $5 million will go into the wastewater installation on Southside Road, because residents on that side of the town are currently on wells and whatnot. And but they're, of course, been advocating to the town of Harbour Grace and to elected officials over the years. So finally, we'll be getting a first phase to get that started on that project. As we know, we have a short window when it comes to construction here in our great province. We get one season or 2 seasons, some would argue. So I would encourage and ask that for the minister's cooperation, that we can get to that, so the town can actually get that work underway. Many people are impacted by that. Also, though, but again, the road work, hopefully there'll be some reconsideration on what can, come from this, or even for the next season. But again, $66 million is certainly a significant cut. And as my colleagues marked today, it is a historic day, a day that we've been waiting for. We do know last year, or prior to last Christmas, not this Christmas past, but the one prior, that we found a moment in history where the province of Quebec was coming to Newfoundland and Labrador, as it is in great need for power, as we all know. And we do know that we are finally in a position. We do know premiers of the past, of all stripes, have tried to take this deal back to the drawing board, have taken it to the courts to renegotiate and to open that, because as we do know, certainly Quebec had the advantage and has the advantage until 2041, as we know. No, not 2041, sorry, I'm getting that confused with the muskrat, but back to that. But we do know that this is something that premiers of the past have tried to open. We're in a position right now where Quebec is in need of the resources that we have. And, we had international experts come here on the floor of the House of Assembly. As we would all remember, we had a special debate in January here in this honorable House, something that the Premier of the day, of course, supported, and obviously we agreed, certainly as a government, to support the opposition's ask to have the special debate, to have the international experts here with no bias, with no political roots here in this province. They're literally international exports, as my colleague from Conception Bay East Bell Island has stated with her credentials on record. And it was like no other. We've never seen that here in the House of Assembly. And we all know that we all had time to ask questions, and it was a debate on the MOU. And so we all know how that went. And it was disappointing to see the opposition of the day actually get up and withdraw and not vote either way. And now it's ironic that they're the ones at the steering wheel, I guess, if you will, to see this through. So we do know that this is a historic and game changer for this province. As my colleague outlined, and my colleague from St. John's East Kitivity, people are in need now. People are in need now. It's arguably the hardest time in history, in modern history, rather, that people are struggling. They're struggling to pay their power bills. They're struggling to put food, healthy food on the table, not junk food, not the foods that contribute to disease and bad health, but good foods. We do know that people are struggling in every way. Again, we do know what's happening in the Middle East, and I always say prayers to Newfoundlanders and Labradorians and Canadians who are currently living in the Middle East. We know what's happening there, how dangerous it is, and so we pray for their well-being, but we also know what's happening in the price of oil and how at hard times, what we're seeing and what we know, as we know, that the Treasury is gaining here in Newfoundland and Labrador with regards to the royalties and to oil. So we are in a position right now to give a break to the residents of the province. We are a province that we don't have a lot of public transit outside of the metro and the major centers here in our province. Ironically, we are larger than the Maritimes combined when it comes to geography, but we don't have a lot of the amenities that they have with regards to public transit. We certainly don't have a GO train. We certainly don't have Metro bus. We don't have public transit around the bay, if you will, or in rural. So, we do need to drive. People need to drive, whether it's to get to their extracurriculars, whether it's to get to their jobs, or how they make their incomes, whether it's to get to their medical appointments. And as we know, they come from far and wide to come here to St. John's, in the metro region, ultimately to get this health care that they need to live in a lot of circumstances. And so people need to use their automobiles. So again, we can always call on government to reconsider. It's great that they extended our Liberal tax break of 2022, which we brought in as an administration to give people a break at the pumps to reduce the tax on gas. But we asked them to take it further. We are in a position to do so. We do know that. We're in a position to do so. So again, there's always time. There's no such thing as really permanent legislation where nothing can be changed, because of course with the political will it can be done. We can always reconvene the House. We've done it. We just did it for special debate, as I just outlined in January, to bring experts here on the floor to answer questions about the significant MOU. With the political will, it can be done. And I don't think there'll be any opposition to helping people when it comes to a break, for cost of living measures. So again, we know what we've brought in place with the cutting in half of the motor vehicle registration. So it's good to see the government, continue the work that we put in place. So that's encouraging. But that said, too, I would encourage them and challenge them to put their own stamp on things and to even take it a bit further, especially in times where we know that we have money and more money is coming into their coffers based on what we're seeing with the oil. Also, at this time as well, we're gearing up in Bay Roberts. I'll just talk about my district for a moment. We have the annual Songs, Stages, and Seafood Festival, which happens in Bay Roberts every May. I guess it follows the May 24th weekend, which is another unofficial kickoff to the summer season in Harbour Grace, Portagrave, in particular in Bay Roberts. And we have that happening this weekend, where we're going to be featured local cuisine and culture and music and food. And of course, the company and the camaraderie of the people. And I'm always advocating, and I'm pleased to say that the continued funding will go ahead to support this festival of $10,000 for the Bay Roberts Songs, Stages, and Seafood Festival. So it's good to see that. I will get into talking now. We also know that we're getting into a wildfire season. In my district alone, we've had several, actually just this spring alone. We know the temperatures are not really reflective of the spring season, but those fires are still happening. We've heard professionals say that the grass is dry and it's very flammable and it spreads quickly. We had fires break out that started in Bishop's Cove that made its way all the way to the border of Upper Island Cove. If the wind was blowing in a different direction, I'm told by the fire chief, hats off to Harvey Mercer of Upper Island Cove. He was quick on the scene with the assistance of other departments in the area. area. And he said if the wind was in a different direction that day, it could have been a very devastating situation in our area. So that's just only one, but there have been several. So again, it's important that the resources are in place. I'm always reaching out to the minister about the applications that have gone in for the protective gear, such as bunker gear, and the required equipment that each volunteer firefighter needs to do this work safely, because they are at the ready. They are there 24/7. I can't say enough about them. They are the most bravest, selfless volunteers in the world, and everywhere you go. I mean, I've spent time in New York when I was down at the United Nations for the Women's Commission down there, and I noticed a huge, beautiful monument that they have of a firefighter. And we all know the significant role that firefighters played in the 9/11 attacks, and how many of them lost their lives for putting their lives on the line to help others. So again, we have to do more to give them the support that they need. So getting into the fire and emergency services, there are elements that we have to do more to support, or the shared priorities by our party. And we're pleased to see the doubling of the volunteer firefighter and search and rescue tax credit, increased investment in equipment and PPE, support for training and emergency preparedness, investments in mobile command capacity, and these are important steps, and we support them, and we talked about them, and they're all things that we announced that we did last year as we went through this unprecedented time, and that was obviously in the election platform, the Red Book. While the tax credit is certainly welcome, and it's certainly welcome to those men and women who do this work, it's not enough. We feel it could have gone farther. We had committed to a comprehensive compensation framework for volunteers, one that recognizes the reality that during major emergencies, people are missing work, and they're incurring their own costs and taking a real risk. As a matter of fact, I keep in touch, and I was talking with the chief of Bay Roberts while this was all happening, and I mean, it really was a big eye opener to hear him say, and he said, called me by name. He said, Pam, when we take that call and we go on that truck, we're ultimately willing to die. And we all know that's true. And again, I just had so much admiration, and I think it's consensus. Everybody here supports firefighters, and rightfully so. And I know we have some firefighters that are here. Actually, the member for Lab West is a firefighter. We thank him for his service and his work. Have a lot of admiration for him, and anybody, of course, who serves, and volunteer fighters that we may have. Again, so we're also seeing a lack of investment where it matters, mostly in prevention. There's very little in the budget to help communities with prevention of wildfires, protect critical infrastructure, build local resilience. We're not seeing commitments around fire breaks, unfortunately, monitoring systems, community-level planning. And after the wildfire season that we saw last year, that absence is obviously hard to justify. We know what was taken in. We had significant aerial supports from not just other parts in the country, but to the United States and our neighbors, across ultimately the continent, to what we saw come here. And at the same time, I mean, wildfires were happening across the country, everywhere last summer, across Canada. We also know that the key response tools that we committed to are missing. The no heavy lift helicopter, no bird dog aircraft. And these are not luxury items. They are critical to the rapid response in rural and remote areas. And I can certainly attest to that, because it was actually a wildfire broke out in Spaniards Bay. And how that fire started, it started actually in a cemetery on Moultrie Hill. And what it was, one of the bulbs actually caught on fire from the reflection from the sun, which started a fire. And that went up very quickly. I remember I got calls from municipal leaders and residents and saying it's happening in Spaniards Bay, but thank God for the aerial services that were just down the way on the North Shore, were minutes away. They were able to get there and to contain that blaze. Now that said, Spaniards Bay volunteer firefighters that were on the scene with the assistance of other nearby firefighting departments, but it was the aerial assistance that really made the difference. And I mean, thankfully there were no structures that were harmed or impacted. But even today, as you drive by, it's a big reminder of what can happen in just a very short time. And to see the cindered woods that are currently still up there. But again, it was very scary. I'll never forget how I felt last summer. And I mean, I remember one time I was out for a walk in my neighborhood in Bay Roberts, and I could smell the smoke. And I thought for sure that it's happening here. There's something happening. I called the fire department only to learn that many calls have come in, but it was actually the smoke that was bellowing up from the North Shore. So we know, I mean, hopefully we won't have to go through that again this season. We had a lot of snow, so hopefully that makes a difference. But that said, everybody can do their part. Check with the provincial department before lighting a fire. Check with your municipal leaders on their websites, if they could have a potential ban in place. Again, be smart. I mean, if you're really consult with the experts before lighting a blaze, because it's not just your property or your life that could be potentially impacted. It could wipe out, as we saw, an entire region. And I would like to commend my colleague over there, of course, a member for Carbonear Trinity Bay de Verde. He's on the ground with his people, and we share a region. And let me say it here on record: there's no political. He and I will work together, as well as the member, my colleague from Harbour, Maine. Like, we share that region, Conception Bay North, and I'm confident that we will certainly be all working together for the betterment of our residents. And I will commend those, because those members are there when we have our meetings, and I know they're there for their citizens as well. And that's what we do. And my colleague said that here actually earlier. There's a lot of great legislation that happens here in this Honourable House of Assembly. It is certainly an honor to be a member. And when we can actually collaborate and work together, that's when we make real effective change that the entire province can benefit from. So that's important. And we hopefully seeing this going forward. It is certainly a disappointment, though, however, to see that the panelists will not make themselves available to the public. So again, I really would encourage the Premier. The Premier has the top job here in this province right now. He is literally the top minister, the Premier of our province right now. And, he has been on record saying that the panelists will speak, and so they should. And I mean, he deserves to have that panel, carry through on his request. This is a big deal. It affects the lives of the past, present, and future of Newfoundland and Labrador. We know what's at stake here. Billions and billions of dollars. And we can be justified from how Quebec has had the better end of the deal. We know that. We know that there's retroactive pay that was on the table of $1 billion just alone. I mean, imagine what we could have done in that budget. We do know there's schools. We do know there's a whole region that has to be rebuilt with a new school for CBN. We do know what's happening with healthcare. It's very disappointing to see the new hospital to be canceled, because we know it's people from every district that travel here to outside of our metro regions to come to avail of the expert healthcare facilities and healthcare that are here. So again, going forward, we're all here to work together on this, and it shouldn't be political, because we have the opportunity here to be life-changing when it comes with this MOU and this deal. And I think I speak for everybody that we're all pulling on the same oar when it comes to that. And I mean, what's best for the people, politics aside, political stripes aside, let's work together. Let's get this best deal for the province, because ultimately, it's the future, it's the present that will benefit, and we know the hard state that people are currently in, and it's in every district. It's impacted in every district, and residents in all of our districts. So again, let's see that happen. And again, I can't emphasize enough how we're all elected here on behalf of the constituents to come here and to do the best that we can. So it will be interesting to see going forward what more information that will come from this. We know what's at stake, and again, hopefully we can work with the province of Quebec to come with an agreement that obviously supports, and ultimately what we're best concerned about is the priorities for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. But again, those heavy lift helicopters, it would have been good to see that, because again, they were just so useful. And I mean, to even hear the firefighters speak about watching them in action and how effective they are. And again, it could have been a very, very different situation for Spaniards Bay and Tilton if that aircraft was not in place. Also, we're happy to say that we did get that fifth water bomber fixed, and I think it was $14.8 million. If my 14.8 that my colleague was very passionate. She was in that role last summer when all this was going on. So we're happy to invest that, and now to see that water bomber finally getting back. And again, we're all here to do the best that we can on behalf of the people of the province. So my time is winding down here now. I look forward to speaking again. I'm speaking here to the amendment to the budget, which my colleague from Cartwright Lansinclair had put in place. and it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. And I look forward to the other speakers who will be getting up here in this Honourable House to speak to budget. And I will take my place now, Chair, and I look forward to speaking again. Thank you.